Levin or Lewin, Levin. It depends. Depends how do you spell Lewin in Hebrew? I guess like that. Lewin. Hachaver ben Moreno Harav Yisrael Yitzchak Lewin. In honor of my mother, third one, Menucha Kreindl Bas Esther, for a refuah shlema, complete refuah shlema, and a speedy recovery. Anonymous. All right. So the neshama should have an aliyah. The neshama should have an aliyah. The chayla should have a refuah shlema b'karoi v'shkoyach for the sponsorship. Dear Rabbi Stefansky, beautiful email. A tearjerker for the first. When I read it first, hopefully I hold it together here. My name is Aro Mosbacher. A bit of background. I'm 13 years old and I live in Yerushalayim. I was born with a very rare syndrome which caused an underdevelopment of my midface. I've been through 24 surgeries already. Some here and some in Dallas, Texas. Unbelievable. 24 surgeries. I had one minor surgery once on my knee, a basketball injury on an ACL. It's not a nice experience. Coming out of general anesthesia is like the worst. Like you feel like a truck hit you. It's nervy. 24 at such a young age. My last surgery was about a year ago. An emergency developed. I almost lost my eyesight. Baruch Hashem. We have a picture of this kid. Very cute kid. We were able to make very quick arrangements, and I flew to Dallas, and the surgery was successful. My eyesight returned to normal. At the beginning of the Daf Yomi cycle, I was debating if I should start learning the Daf. At that point, I wasn't ready to commit. I have a brother in Yeshiva Gdoilo who had been home due to COVID-19, and since he started the Daf this year and was looking for a good shir. My mother read the article, maybe I misread it. My mother read the article about you and suggested he try out your shir. See, the article worked, at least for one person. It was Kedai. I don't know which article, the article. The lion article. Okay, the lion article, it worked for this guy. Baruch Hashem, we got a yeshiva guy, a yeshiva g'dayla bacher. He was completely hooked and has been listening every day. I watched him listening and gave me a big cheshik to start as well. 13-year-old kid. I started 2 weeks ago from the beginning of brachas, and I'm loving it.
Phenomenal writer. 13-year-old.
Yeah. You explain it so well and clear, and of course, I love your jokes that you stick in. I listen to the full daf every day, and I listen to the 8-minute daf afterwards for Chazara. I don't watch it live. I listen on Torah Anytime app. Amen. Because of my medical history, I recently missed out a lot of school, like everybody else did, but I guess he's talking about even before that, and fell very behind in my learning, which has been a big challenge for me, and I don't feel good about it. So learning the daf has made me feel so good about myself. I cannot have done it without your shir. I'm still home from Cheder, and this helps me get through the day. So, Reb Aaron Mosbach, I have to tell you, we look forward. What happened up until now, how much you missed, is not important. It's from here on out. If you continue, you'll finish Shas by the age of 20. That's unbelievable. You got to look forward. He's such a young kid, 13 years old. Here's a before and after picture. Mamish a Zisa kid, Geshmaka kid. I really appreciate all your hard work and would really love to visit RBS one day and join in the live shir. I would also be so excited to hear a shout out one day. Here's the shout out. Ara Mosbacher, you're a hero.
Maybe somebody wants to sponsor a ride for him.
If somebody's coming in from Yerushalayim, we'd love to have Ara Mosbacher sit right next to me right over here. It'll be mamish a big cover for us to have him. P.S. attaches a picture of me before and after my reconstructive surgery. I'm so grateful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu for all he's done for me. This is a small way I can show my gratitude to Hashem. All right, beautiful. Shkach for the email. Send in your emails. It gives us a lot of chizuk. Pictures, without pictures. Send in emails about the 8-minute daf. Be'ezer Hashem, I'm starting to read a small email, a short email, or it could be a long email, but I'll shorten it. I'll do a synopsis, 8-minute synopsis on the short, and I'll read it before the 8-minute. Be'ezer Hashem. Okay. To summarize this one would be, No, but about this actually has an 8-minute shout out, so maybe I can read it also. Okay, fine. That's not a bad idea. Well, maybe the first email ever on the 8-minute will be about Aaron Mosbach. What do you think? I think it's a good idea. I didn't think about it. We'll have to synopsis it a little bit.
Mosbach with an M.
Masbacher. I know some Masbachers actually from Muncie. I know Muncie. There's a Masbacher up north.
It's a Switzerland family.
By the way, if you're related to Masbacher up north, please write me. I need to get a hold of him. I'm serious. Been looking for the guy for a while. All right. No, the opposite. No. I think I owe him money. Seriously. He lives in a moshav with a lot of cows. Anyway, says the Gemara, we are holding the Tzadik Dalet Omid Beis, 10 lines from the bottom. Tanya. So here's the question of the day. I have a couple questions that we have to think about. Chidushim G'dolim for me. One is not the biggest chiddush in the world. One was a much bigger chiddush. How is it possible that you have a tree in your backyard, and if you pick fruit from it on Shabbos, you're not really over? Maybe they're a banana, but you're not over on toilish.
Trees, the fruit's not ready.
It's ready, mamish, 100% ready. It's juicy, geschmack of fruit. No, Rabbi say somebody. Oh.
It's not attached to the ground.
Very good.
It's not.
Says Naftali Ritual that it's a pot that does not have, it's planted in a pot and it doesn't have a hole, so it's not yearning from the ground. Yes, it's in dirt and it grows beautifully. If you that's what we're going to learn in Mishnah. Okay, so that's a pretty big chiddush. But here's a big chiddush. Think about it, on Yontif, on Pesach afternoon, your little hut that you live in falls down. Is it mutter for you to build a house on Yontif? Question. You know it's a trick question, right? So you're going to say, if he's asking, probably it's mutter, right? Rambam says it's aser. So why am I asking? Because Taisa says it's mutter. That's what we're going to learn today. Unbelievable Taisus. You're allowed to build a house on Yontif if you need it. There's a concept called mitoich. We don't have to jump ahead, but just think about this idea, because if we would have just learned it, you wouldn't have been so shocked. There's a shocker. Just like you're allowed to make a fire on Yontif to heat yourself up. Why? Because you're allowed to make a fire for food. So if you're allowed to do baina for food, you're allowed to, and what is baina, we'll see. If you're allowed to do baina for food, so you're allowed to do baina for another reason. If it's a very important reason, you're allowed to do baina. You're allowed to build a house on Yontif, according to Taisus. So if your sukkah falls down on Yontif, you might be able to tell a guy to go build it, whatever, according to Taisvus. Says the Gemara, Tanya, Reb Shimon ben Elazar Omer, Tziparin sheperash rubo. It's funny, last night when we were learning the Mishnah, that if somebody cuts his nail with his teeth on Shabbos, he's chayiv d'oraisa, Reb Elazar, a guy screams, "Oh no!" like in the middle of the shir. And as he's screaming it, I see his finger in his mouth. Like, oh no. Yeah, according to Reb Elazar, yeah, good morning. According to Reb Elazar, it's Issa Rice. According to Chachamim, it's only Issa Rabbanon. Right. Your Michal Shabbos during the week. Tayr Shim ben Elazar Omer Tziparin sheperash ruba. If most of the nail is detached, vitzitzin sheperishim ruban, and cuticles, like the little pieces of skin that you have by your nail, that most of it came off. A lot of people like to remove those on Shabbos, especially. It's a favorite habit. Bayad mutar. If you do it with your hand, it's mutar. B'kli chayev chatos. Let's see, before we jump into the halacha and we think we know the halacha l'maisa. With a kli, it would be aser. Using like a nail clipper or a special device that removes the cuticles, it's aser. B'yad mutar. Ask the Gemara, mi'ike midid b'kli chayev chatos or b'yad mutar l'chatchila. It doesn't flow. If you do it with a kli, nail clipper, it's a deraisa. So then Rabbanan should have stepped in and say, hey, wait a minute. Don't do it with your hand. One step lower. Don't go from completely mutter with your hand to completely usher with a kli. That doesn't make sense. Hachi Perish ruban, if most of it is separated, bayad mutter, bikli pater aval aser. Yes, it is one step removed. It's not an issa deraisa with a chatas. You shouldn't do it. Loi perish ruban, however, if you don't have a roiv removed, bayad mut pater aval aser, now it's one step above. So with your hand, it's pater aval aser. You should not remove it with your hand if it's not a roiv off. Bikli chayav chatas, then you are chayav chatas. So bikli chayav chatas was accurate. Bayad pater was mutter was also accurate, but different cases. Kli is chayav chatas if you don't have a roiv off. Bayad is mutter if you have a roiv off. There's a mix-up between the two cases. Amar Rav Yehuda. Halacha Reb Shimon ben Elazar. So the halacha is like what we just said. Omer Rabbi Bavachan, Omer Rabbi Yochanan, v'hu shepershu klapi mala umetzar isoisoi. The halacha is that you're allowed to remove your nail. It happens a lot, right? Your nail gets stuck somewhere on Shabbos, and the majority is off, and every time you touch something, you touch your sweater, it gets stuck in your tie, it causes problems. You want to know if you can take it off. So, says the Gemara, V'hu shepershu klapi mala. What does that mean? Says Rashi, if it's removed towards your tip of your finger, klapi mala. Says Tosfos, Rabbi Tam doesn't like it. He says, no, klapi mala means towards your hand. So it's lower down. In other words, your nail is really messed up. It's like, it's over here, towards your finger. So basically, if you look in the Shulchan Aruch, he says, since you have Rashi, you have Tosfos, don't touch it. Because you don't know. You don't know if it's roiv this way or roiv that way. Let's see, hold on. Oh. What? No, so that's what it says. Klapi mala umitzaris. It really hurts and bothers him? Too bad. Because Rashi says it means that it's towards the top of your hand. Tosfos says towards the bottom of your hand. We don't know which way to go.
It hurts to make what direction it is.
So you allowed to be Mechal Shabbos if something hurts?
No, it's giving an example of why it would hurt. It hurts. Why would it hurt? Because your nail is this way. The meaning is it hurts.
No. Because a lot of people are learning that it's two separate things. Klapi mala umitzaris. It's two. I could think that, hey, it's already detached, so therefore I could just completely detach it. That if it's like Rashi, if this way maybe it's not detached, and it is, so I don't know. So since I don't know, says the Gemara, v'chein hagoidelas. What's hagoidelas? Braiding ones here. I have the picture here from Yoni. I like the way he depicts the woman. If you see that the man is a little bit more defined over here, the woman has like no nose, whatever. Okay, fine. The corona mask. He's one of those guys that's not makvan on a mask. You see, typical. Okay, fine. Mamish racist. Braiding hair, in case you don't know what it looks like. This is what it looks like. Fine. Koicheles. Oh, what does koicheles mean? In case you don't know what it looks like, it's painting your eyes. I put a little blue here just in case it fits into kachol, whatever. I don't know. It's a little makeup, little eyeliner, whatever they call it. Poikeses. What's poikeses? So two pshatim in Rashi. He likes this pshat. Great, we'll go with this pshat. It means to separate the hair with your fingers. Mishum mai mechayva. What's the iser? Omar Rabbi Oven, Omar Rabbi Yossi bar Chanina, goideles mishum oireges. So goideles is oireg, weaving. You're weaving your hair. You're going like this to your hair. You're weaving it, just like you take two threads and you make a garment out of it. You're making something out of your hair. The Gemara doesn't like that. Koicheles mishum koiseves. Look, she's drawing. She's drawing on her eye. She takes it and she makes a nice round circle. Ksiva. Also, Gemara is not very happy with that. Poikeses mishum toiva. You're spinning, you're taking the hair out, you're spinning the hair. Is that how you weave? Is that how you write? Is that how you spin? I have a pshat. Daf Tzadik Yom Aleph. Koicheles mishum tzoivas. She is dying. She's dyeing her skin. Yes, it's not a long-term dye, but nevertheless, it's similar. It's awesome. Goideles upoikeses, and if she is braiding her hair, or she is separating her hair, mishum boina. She's building. Ask the Gemara, you're going to ask me, that's how you build. Build means you take a stone, you build a house. Building here, yes, and we had this in Brachas, if you remember, going back. You see, now we're already quoting Mesachtas that we learned. Baruch Hu built the tzela, we learned the rib. Tzela, what does it mean? I said we learned when we were in kindergarten, that's how we learned. Not necessarily the pshat. Melamed shekilu HaKadosh Baruch Hu lechava ve'evia etzel Adam. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu, shkoyach. How did it go? Went okay? HaKadosh Baruch Hu took Chava and he beautified her. He made her hair. He braided her hair. And we also learned that he gave her a little makeup. Remember he gave her makeup. You're supposed to do makeup. And that we also learned a person is supposed to lower himself for Sheshvinim. You don't say, oh, I'm a Kadosh Baruch Hu, it's beyond my covet to deal with this person. No, you do it afal pike. Shekem mikachah yom koirin likal yasa b'nei yasa. So we in out of town, like in New York, every place is out. In Chicago, which is out of town, in LA, which is out of town, they call a kliya, a braid, b'niyasa. So it goes together. Yes, it's a binyan. You want to know what binyan is? Braiding your hair. That's binyan, because in the Torah, Kadosh Baruch Hu built up Chava for other Marisha. Just want to shout out for the people on Zoom. They're watching. We have Ted Fishman watching us. Who else? Howard Metz. Howard Metz, new one, I think, right? So Shalom Aleichem, Reb Howard. All right, weiter gegangen. Tanyo. Reb Shimon Lazar Omer. Ice, we have ice now. Whoever likes ice, we have an ice maker in Eretz Yisrael, an ice maker, the additional ice maker, $500. As much as an entire refrigerator with an ice maker costs in the States. But we have ice. I'm not kidding. Ask Gary. Another 2,000 shekel. And it was because Noam insisted we get ice because he likes ice, but he hasn't been to the Bismarish yet. So after Corona's over, in whatever, a few months from now, we'll give him some ice.
Do you get crushed ice or just plain ice?
No. You don't get crushed ice for 2,000 shekel. Don't exaggerate. It's regular regular ice for 2,000. You want crushed, that's an additional 1,000 shekel probably.
That's
Secondary. Zog the Gemara. I bought the Samsung refrigerator that has crushed ice, yeah? And when I went to Home Depot, they had the same refrigerator for the same price that I paid, only the entire door was a screen. Literally, a whole screen. And you could put your pictures of your family on it, and it looks into your refrigerator, so when you're shopping, it has video cameras and stuff, so you could see what's missing. Milk is missing. It's the same exact refrigerator, but with all the whistles and everything, with the screen. I thought it was pretty cool. Exactly. Shabbos would be a little bit of a problem. Tayyib Shimon Lazo Omer. Goideles, koicheles, uperkeses. So you have these three things: the braiding, the painting of the eye, and the separating of the hair, according to that one Pshat in Rashi. La'atzma ptura. If she does it for herself, she's potter. Why? Says Rashi, because a person can't really do a great job. Try to give yourself a haircut. It doesn't go so well when you do yourself. So therefore, it's not a real binyan. But l'chaverta chayeves. That's considered binyan. You want to build, you build properly, and therefore you're chayev if you do it for your friend. V'chein oya Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar omer mishum Rabbi Eliezer isha leitaver srak al poneh. A woman should not put like a blush color, like a red on her skin. This will cause something like tzviya to die, and that's aser tanu rabbana. We're going into other melachas here. Hachaylev, when you milk an animal, you milk a cow. V'amechabetz. Mechabetz, Rashi explains, and my chavrus was telling me that people in Israel do this. I've never heard of it, but he said that, yeah, it's very popular. For him, for sure, it's popular. You buy a couple of these yogurts, these, you know what I'm talking about? They make vina levana, exactly. They make their own cream cheese. Why? You save a couple shekel. What?
Make cream cheese, you put it in a sock and hang it out.
Yeah.
Yeshiva we did it.
In yeshiva, if you're in koilel,
And if the sock is dirty, it tastes even better.
somebody was saying yesterday that they don't hear what the horrors on Zoom are. So the horrors here on Zoom. He said if the sock is dirty, the cheese tastes much better. In yeshiva, they put the milk. So anyways, you take this leben, this sour gvina, shamenet, you pour it on a piece of cloth. This is, by the way, where Rabbi Schoenberg, if he was here, he'd jump out of his seat from Hana. We're talking about rennet, about cheese and how to make cheese. Gewaldig. Where is he? He's here somewhere, Rabbi Shomer. It has to be, right? Oh, here he is. He's excited. Yeah, he's waving. He's happy. Gewaldig. Anyways, and he's probably saying that this guy has no clue what he's talking about, the cheese. It's not called rennet. It's called, kids, one shot in Rashi is the rennet thing. Fine, whatever. I like this shot, or maybe the next thing. Anyway, you take this cloth, you put this lebanon on, you put this milk on, whatever it is, and the whey, okay, I said the word. Fine, Rabbi Shai, I said the word, whey, not the water. The whey comes out from the bottom, and you're left with nice gvina levana, 5%, 15%, whatever you start out with. That's the achuz you're left with. Great. People do this in Eretz Yisrael, believe it or not, because a leban, he explained to me, is 4 shekel. The gvina is 8 shekel. So you could say 4 shekel if you go through this whole process. Great. Okay, listen, some people, it's kedai to save $1 to work for 3 hours. I hear it. It makes a lot of sense for me. He said, I asked him, does it taste better? He says, no. You say it tastes better, now I understand. Great. He said, it depends on the sock. It depends on the sock. So sometimes it tastes better, sometimes it doesn't. If your wife is a no, you can't use the dirty sock. She doesn't chap. That's the whole thing. Tnuva uses the dirties to the dirty sock. And if you basketball, hockey, by the way. Hockey, if you ever brought your kid to ice hockey, the reyach of that, but it's not, you can't describe it. 5 dead people is not such a reyach. And they play with it, the schmack. You bring a kid from hockey, you bring the whole team in your van in hockey, you need to rinse out the inside of your car for 3 hours. Zok the Gemara. So such a sock, a hockey sock, the best cheese ever. V'amechabetz, v'amegaben. What's a megaben? If you look at the word megaben, is gvina. So it's not the same thing. It's you're taking the pieces that are floating over there, the kernels, whatever, you bring them together, that's mamish baina. You bring it together, you're building. What's the shear? Kigrei geres. This is what they were talking about, by the way. Rabbi Yisai, seriously, sitting in my house, there's nobody laughing. I'm talking to myself. I'm making a joke to the screen. I don't see anyone. I see a bunch of faces. Over here, you hear this guy thinks it's funny. It gives a chiyus to the shear. It's a whole different game. We have to stay here, Rabbi. We have to daven that we stay in this base marriage. Okay, so the shear of kiguri, like everything else in Shabbos, basically grey geres. Hamechabed, sweeping your floor. Are you allowed to sweep floors? Everybody sweeps floors today, right? There are issues. It's discussed whether you're allowed. The Gemara is talking about in a time when the floor was made out of dirt, completely different animal, but still, you're sweeping muktzah, you're sweeping things that are most. Okay, Vame rabbits. Rabbits is because the floor is made out of dirt, so you sprinkle some water to settle the dust. V'haroida chalois dvash, and taking out these cakes of honey. What are they called? The honey. The wafers. The whole thing is called a comb, but when you take a piece out of it, fine. Shogag b'Shabbos chayiv chatos, says the Gemara. This is the Raisa. So you chayiv chatos. Hazed b'Yom. And if you did this on purpose, even on Yom Tov, like Arbaim, you get malchus for this. Dibri Rebbe Eliezer. So says Rebbe Eliezer. It's only Issa de Rabbana. Now there's a big machlokes in Rishonim. What is this line going on all 6 things? Because we start out Choylev Mechabetz Megaben, and then we have Mechabet Merabbetz V'Roida, and he says Echad Zeh V'Echad Zeh. So could be some Rishonim say it's only talking about the last 3, but the first 3 not so much. Or fine. The first 3 are Issa Deraisa, only the last 3 are the Rabbanan. Rav Nachman Bar Guya ikla in Harda. Rav Nachman Bar Guya shows up in Harda, and he had a bad day. Bomine choylev mishum may mechayev. Could you please explain to us what's the Isser to milk a cow on Shabbos? Amar lahu, he drew a blank, so he says mishum choylev. Hishkoyach. Why is it also to do choylev? So they go weiter, okay, blank, fine. What about mechabetz? You know mechabetz? Yeah. Mishum may mechayev. Amar lo, mishum mechabetz. Megaben, mishum may mechayev. Amar lo, mishum megaben. Amar lei, Rabboch, kol tekane ba'agma havo. Has anybody ever heard this expression? Katakane? Nobody? He's heard it. Not gonna heard it. In yeshiva, in my house, my father used to call it, what am I, katlakanya? Katlakanya, it's all those expressions from the Gemara. Katlakanya means a guy that Shabbos reads in the ba'agma, you take off the agma. When you want to say to somebody, you want to sound cool, you don't say, katlakanya ba'agma, you don't say that. You say, What are you, a katlikanya? What are you don't know your stuff, you're a garbage man, like in those days. What are you, a katlikanya? A guy that cuts reeds in the swamp. He doesn't know how to learn. Your Rebbe didn't know how to learn, he couldn't teach you. Megaben, Asa Shol B'Midrash, so you didn't know, so you started asking people. Amrulay, Chaylev Chayav Mishum Mefarik. When you milk a cow, you are being mefarik. Dash. You're separating the wheat from the shaft, from the kernel, from the it's different malachas of mefarik, of extracting the milk from the animal. You're separating the liquid from this behemoth. Mechabetz chayav mishum boirer. Okay, taking your shemenet, your yogurt, and putting it on a dirty sack, and having the water come out from the bottom. That's a boirer. Especially that you're doing it with a kli, you're using a sack. Even if you want to say oichel m'tech p'saz, Rashi says it's oichel m'tech p'saz, not exactly sure the top, the bottom, but the bottom line is that you're using a kli. The only time boirer is mutter, oichel m'tech p'saz, biyad and miyad. You do it with your hand and right away, but over here you're doing it with the kli, so it's also. Megabein, and to take the kernels, the pieces, and put them together, chayim mishum baina. Over here, we must see Tosfos. Look at Tosfos Dibur Maskav Aroida. It's basically the first wide line. Umiu Teimelari. Kiv in the mutter legaben b'Yom Tov minat Torah. We just said you're allowed to make cheese on Yom Tov, and we just established that making cheese is what? Isur baina. Afilu be'efshar. Afilu lo yeh mutter midrabanan. Ela b'delei efshar. Mkein nafal beisa b'Yom Tov. This is the concept of mitoich. Mitoich shuhutar binyan l'tzayrech. Since I could build when I need to, meaning I could build cheese on Yantiv, the megavin have a mishum bayna kedam b'samoch hutanamel shalei l'tzayrech. So therefore, I could build a house. If I could make a fire to cook up a chalt on Yantiv, and therefore mitoich shuhutar l'tzayrech, I'm allowed to make a fire to warm up my feet. So if I'm allowed to do baina and make cheese on Yom Tov, so I'm allowed to do baina and build a house l'tzarech on Yom Tov.
It means just putting up some rocks, or it just means the whole process?
Whatever it is, the whole process, whatever I need to put a roof over my head. Says Tosfos the Shleimar, dasim the rabbanon davar uvda dechol. There's another problem. It looks bad. It's uvda dechol. There are certain malachas that are also because it's terrible. Bring out the machine and start doing the teichen and start that you don't do on Yom Tov. Mainly you don't build, but in theory it should be okay. Fine.
How far can you take that? Can I cut down the tree to make the wood to build the house? How far?
No, so that's a different sugya. Yeah, that's already a machshir. That's one step before. Could you make a knife to make a milah? That's the sugya. Hamachabed amirabetz varoida. Chalois dvash shogi b'Shabbos chayav chatos heizi b'Yom Tov loika harbayim. Divrei Rebbe Eliezer, we just said this. All these malachas according to Rebbe Eliezer are deraisa. Amar Rebbe Eliezer. My time is Rebbe Eliezer. Why does he say that honey, taking out honey, is a iser deraisa? D'chsiv vayitbol oiso b'yaris dvash. Yonason, David Amel's best friend, he took his stick, his staff, and dipped it into the honey. But it doesn't say he dipped it in honey. It says vayitbol b'yaris dvash. Right? Isn't that Tellstone? No, that's Yar is something, no? Yar. Oh, fine. Yeah, not Yar is dvash. Sorry. Oh, Yar is dvash. Is that Rabbi Yonatan It's right. Yar is dvash. So why does it say Yar means a forest? What does that have to do with the honey? V'chi ma'in Yar it's dvash eloloi malach. Just like if you pull off something from a tree, you're chayiv a chatos, achaz dvash. You break off a piece of the honeycomb, you're chayiv chatos. Says the Gemara, Ameimar shora zilcha b'mechayza. Mechayza was a wealthy place. They had tiles like we do, so he allowed to do some sort of a sponge, like to spray water on the floor. The isser is, Omar time my Omer Rabbanon. We don't have to go with our head in the wall. Rabbanon said it isser, and they explained it very nicely. Dilma asilash gumois. The whole problem is maybe you'll smooth out the floor. What's the problem with that? You're a boina, or maybe makib patish. It's a problem. Hacha like a gumois. We have nice tiles on our floor. Everything is straight to begin with. There's no issue to put water on the floor. Rav Taisfa, Ashkechel Ravina, he met Ravina, the Komitztar Mahavlo. There are a lot of people that suffer from this even today. Dust is probably the number one cause of asthma. So there's a lot of dust on the floor. He couldn't take it. V'amar and some people say it wasn't Rav Taisfa, it was Mark Shisha Beri the Rav Ashkechel Rav Ashi, different story. The Komitztar Mahavlo. Omarlei, Loisavel Amar Lo Desanya. There's a way out of this. If somebody wants to put down water on his floor, maybe he takes a bucket full of water. So he does one job in one corner, and he keeps on moving the bucket around, and he pretends he has to wash his face, and the water falls on the floor. Then he washes his hands, the water falls on the floor. Basically, he gets his house water on the floor by not spraying directly on the floor, by putting on his face. And the whole house becomes completely sponged. So two pshatim Rashi. Either it means I don't recall such a thing, or I don't hold of this. This is a terrible idea. I don't like this idea. It's trickery, not for me. Tana, we learned, Isha Chachama, meaning the wife of a Talmid Chacham or the daughter of a Talmid Chacham that knows the tricks, knows the ins and outs. Marbetz is based b'Shabbos. She has a way how to do sponja. Don't quote me sponja. I'm just throwing that out. It means to sprinkle, spray a little water. Vayidna the Sfirlan Kerib Shimon Shara Afil Chatchila. This reminds me. I don't know if Chaim Kormeluth is watching now. Maybe he'll listen later. There's another thing that we were discussing that we hold, says the Gemara like Reb Shimon. Davar she'enim skaven is mutter. So if I drag a bench through the street, I don't have any intent to make a furrow, and it's not 100% that'll happen. It's not a psik reisha. So yes, it might happen. No, I don't have to be careful. Davar she'enim skaven. So we're also, I'm not trying to be mash v'gumais. I'm not trying to smooth out my floor. I want the dust gone. How do I do it? I spray water in the air. You're concerned that maybe the water will hit the floor and it'll start leveling things out. Maybe yes, maybe not. It's not 100%. And therefore, Davar she'enim skaven is mutter. There's no problem. Great. Says the Mishnah. Hatoileish mi otzutz nokov. In case you need to see what this looks like. So if you go to the nursery and you buy, flower pots, usually they have holes on the bottom so that the water could drain out. Here's Yoni's depiction. The red is a nice little hole on the bottom. So it draws, what does it do? It draws nourishment from the ground. And the chiddush is unbelievable. The Mishnah says, if you break something off a tree, you do plisha, which is kaitzer, really. It's the malach of kaitzer on Shabbos. You take off fruit from the tree, toilish is just on a tree, kaitzer is on the ground. Me'at it's nakov, if it has a hole in it, like in the red, so there's no difference whether it's planted in the ground or above the ground, it's nourishing from the ground, it gets some sort of whatever the ground provides, chayev. Rashi says, unbelievable, even if the hole is on the side of the planter, of the flower pot, because it's still smelling, it's still grabbing the nourishment from the ground. It doesn't have to be directly below. V'she'eni nakov potter. Unbelievable. This shocked me. I mean, I think I learned it 100 times in my life, and it just hit me like, potter. This tree, I actually have a little orange tree on my porch, in a pot. It's not nourishing from the ground. I don't know if it's considered a pot. I guess it's a pot.
Would you be able to take it? What about the
No. It's Asim Derabanan. Asim Derabanan. Potter Avalaser. But I'm saying in terms of Issa Deraisa, I just grab so if I'm starving, if I'm about to die on Shabbos, and I have one tree that's planted downstairs, one tree planted about, you go to the tree that's planted, it's not Issa Deraisa. It's Issa Derabanan. It doesn't look good, whatever. It's Issa Deraisa. Reb Shimon, Poiter B'Zeh. Huh? Yeah, my porch is not sticking over anywhere. There's no nourishment at all. Laibi David says that if there's leaves hanging over, that's considered a nourishment, nothing to do with the pot. Okay. Maybe that's why Yoni has a very straight one stem kind of thing. Imagine he drew this and he printed his whole thing and people send him in emails. I mean, this was before the email days. This is like from 30 years ago. But yeah, it would be a big problem. Fine, he did a good job. He didn't mess up. Reb Shimon pointed Baruch Hashem. Reb Shimon is very consistent throughout Masechta Shabbos. Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, Potter. Nothing to do with Malach Shein. It's a new halacha. All pots, whether they have a hole in it, don't have a hole in it, they are pot. They're considered not attached to the ground, and therefore, even if it has a hole in it, it's not enough nourishment. By the way, just on Shemitah, what they do here in Israel, I heard at least, they take a piece of plastic, they roll it out on the ground, and they put a bunch of dirt on it, yeah? And they plant on that dirt, so it's not nourishing from the ground. And then in Hilchas Shemitah, it's okay. Hilchas Shabbos, it's not okay. Says the Gemara, question, either Abai asked Rava, or they asked Rav, Tnan. Reb Shimon pointed b'zeh. It says that Reb Shimon doesn't distinguish between a flower pot that has a hole or doesn't have a hole. It's considered as if it's not in the ground. Al manokov of the Reb Shimon k'sheini nokov mishavile. Even if it has a hole, it's nothing. V'remino Reb Shimon oimer ein bein nokov l'sheini nokov. There is no difference lahalacha between a flower pot that has a hole or doesn't have a hole. Elo lahachshir zroim bilvad. What does that mean? So we know when it comes to Hilchas Tumah, in order for fruit to be Mikabel Tumah or food, you have to pour in it one of the 7 liquids. So let's say you pour water in it, now it could be Mikabel Tumah. If it's on a tree, that we all know, mechuber to the karka, you cannot pour water. If it rains, pour water, it doesn't matter. It cannot be mechuber to the karka. What halacha does a flower pot have? If a flower pot is not connected to the ground, then if I pour water on it, then it's Mikabel Tumah. My whole tree, orange is on the tree. If I go like this, pour water, and I want to pour water, what? What do you say? Mukhshir l'kabel tumah. Yeah, mukhshir. Yeah, the concept of hechshir l'kabel tumah. Now, if something that's tummy touches it, becomes tummy. Not the water's tummy. Mukhshir l'kabel tumah. Elo lahachshir zroim bilvad. So he says that when it comes to tumah, now it's considered not part of the ground. Only one halacha. It's not part of the ground. When? When I want to be machshir it. Since there's a flower pot here, so this plant is not part of the ground, it's not mechuber, and therefore water will make it mukhshir l'kabel tumah, and if something tummy touches it, but he distinguishes. You just said blanket statement. Everything, it doesn't matter if it's this pot, that pot, Reb Shimon holds it's not attached to the ground at all. He says no. That if it only when there's no hole in it, then legabi tumah, it's detached. Omelei l'chol mili Reb Shimon katolish mishah. No, it's not true. Reb Shimon says regardless, it's always considered detached from the ground. And when it comes to zraim, since there's so many words, zera, zera, shizareya, tumah is different. So older man asked Reb Zera a question. Shorish keneged negev mali. Where am I? Okay. Shorish keneged negev mali on Reb Shimon. So now it's a little different. You have the root right by the hole of the flower pot. There's a root pointing down, and it could grab nourishment. That root is an antenna to grab nourishment. Does that make a difference? Yes or no? Reb Shimon said it doesn't matter. It's considered separate, but perhaps if there's a root, it's not separate. Now it nourishes. Ishtik v'lei omar lei midi. V'lei midi. In this context, I believe it means he just didn't know. We had the other, I don't know, a while ago, we had ishtik. It means it was a really silly question. He didn't want to answer him. He didn't feel, over here, he didn't know. Good kasha. Zimna chada, a different time, same 2 people. You have the Saba and you have Reb Zera. The questioner and Reb Zera who didn't know the answer. Ashkechei, the Yosef Amar, and he found, the old person found Reb Zera sitting and giving a drasha. Umoy de Reb Shimon, Shimnikav bichdei tarasai. Then when it comes to Tuma, if it has a hole, which if we're dealing with a Kli Cheres, the hole of the size of an olive, and we're going to go a little bit into it now, the size of an olive makes this Kli no more a Kli for Tuma. And therefore, Rav Shimon admits that it's considered mechuber. What does that mean? If this Kli, this flower pot is not a flower pot halachically because it has a giant hole in it, I'm not going to keep it in my house. I don't need earthenware that has a hole the size of an olive. What could I put in it? Larger things than an olive. I get it. But typically, I'm going to toss out something that has a hole this size of an olive. So therefore, it cannot separate between my plant and the ground. Because halachically, it's not a Kli. If it's not a Kli, then it's attached to the ground. So the Gemara doesn't like, so he asked, the Saba says, I don't understand something. Hashda shorish keneged nekev baya. I was asking you a much simpler question. I was asking you where physically the root could see the ground. That you didn't know. But a halacha pretend that the Kli is not there, that is okay with you, and that you're saying does nourish. It should be the reverse. If the root sees the ground, then for sure it should be as if it's attached to the ground. If it has a small hole that maybe the root sees the ground, it doesn't see the ground, you don't care. You say automatically it's as if it's touching the ground. So if the root sees the ground, for sure. But logic-wise, he's saying, asking, why do you imply logic? You didn't answer me. It should be the exact opposite. Omer Abaya, v'itmar lahad Rabbi Zera hachi u'de'itmar. Reb Shimon wasn't talking about every hole in the world in this Kli. Reb Shimon shemnikav lemato meravius. There's a difference. If the hole is up here, that's one halacha. We're talking about where the hole is on the side right over here, and this Kli cannot even hold a revius water. You can't do it. Oh, now that's a really bad Kli. Amarava. So we're going to see in a second, there's a concept called gistera, and we learned about it also. Gistera means a shard of earthenware. So if my Kli breaks into pieces, I can use one piece of broken earthenware, I can use it as a gistera. What do I do with it? I put it underneath a Kli that's dripping. I have a small drip. I'm not going to throw out my Kli. There's the time of the Gemara. It's very hard to make, expensive. I'm going to catch it. Now, what if that gistera has a hole in it? Forget about it. I'm not going to use a gistera for a gistera. So, if this Kli it cannot even hold a revius, then it's not even good for a gistera, then it's useless. Amarava. Chameish midas b'kli cheres. There are 5 measurements, there are 5 different levels when it comes to kli cheres, to earthenware. Nikav kemoitzi mashka, the smallest of the small holes. You have a pin needle that liquid could seep out of it. Tahar militami gistra. So over here we have to use the lashon tahar. It's a little tricky just to understand the language here, but when we learned in Masechtas Brachas all the way in the beginning, tahar means tahar yom, the day left. Meaning, it's not available. Tar, it's gone. Tar militami gistra. This gistra, this broken piece, does not even become tamei. Why? Because it's useless. If it's useless, then it's not even tamei. It cannot even become tamei. A broken piece of earthenware doesn't become tamei. So tahar militami gistra. It's done. It's finished with tuma. However, v'adayin klihu lekadish boy mechatos. So this Kli, so if the gistra, let's talk about a gistra. Number one, if the gistra has a small hole in it, it's not a gistra. Because what good is a broken piece of earthenware if it itself has a hole in it? All it's good is to catch liquid that's coming out of a nice big Kli. But if it itself is broken, garbage. So that's not even in the list. Forget about that. You can't even count it as one. However, if you have a regular Kli that has a small hole in it, the same size as the gistra, but it's a small hole in a big Kli, it's such a good Kli that it's lekadish by mechatos. The Kliu, adayin Kliu lekadish by mechatos, mechatos, what you sprinkle on somebody who's tamei, this is considered a good Kli. right? Because it has to be a kli that could hold liquid. It holds liquid. It's only coming out slightly. Nikav, number 2. Nikav kekonis mashka. But if it could receive liquid inwards, that's a much larger hole. Tar melakash by mechatos. No longer tar. You can no longer use it for the sprinkling the ashes of the paraduma. V'adayin kliu lahachshir boizroim. However, it's still considered a kli that if you put zroim, you put food, edible, seeds, whatever, you could use it to be machshir those zroim. Nikav keshayrish katan. Now, if the hole is small enough that a root could come out of it, no longer could you use this as it's bottle. In other words, this kli is bottle. So if the kli is bottle, this is growing from the ground. Growing from the ground, I can't be machshir. I can't introduce water to it to say, oh, now it can be mikabel tuma. It's attached to the ground, but it's in a kli. No, the kli is garbage. There is no kli here. Halachically, there's no kli. But it is a kli to the point that it could hold stuff. So if it could hold stuff, such as olives, then it's mikabel tuma. Number 4, nikav k'moitzi zeisim. But if it's large enough that the hole is so large that olives start falling out of it, tar mikabel zeisim. That's not a kli at all. Meaning, if I say specifically, I want to. I see Avi Kamiansky very large. I'm not sure why. He's on a 70-inch screen, and everybody just turned around. Fine. If he doesn't even hear us, I don't think. If
I hear you and I'm not doing anything, don't worry.
we could see the brand name on your washing machine over there, whatever that is. Is that a freezer? What is that? But we know that you're into mountain biking. Now we know you're into mountain biking. Fine. Oh, Shir Malis. So anyway, just 1 minute. So Nikav Kamaitzi remind him so by remind him, you have to specifically say, I am designating this kli to hold my pomegranate. Nikav Kamaitzi remind him, but once it's large enough that you can't even put a pomegranate in it, Tomiklum, it's gone. You can't do anything. However, listen to this. This kli is so gone that it's not a kli at all. But there is one thing you could do. Hagdama, real quickly. When it comes to tumas oil, if there's tuma in the room, everything becomes tame. What if the tuma is in my kli cheres and the kli cheres is open? It becomes tame. Here's a big chiddush, Rabbi Isai. What if the kli cheres is completely closed, sealed, closed, but there's a hole on the side, huge hole? Does the tuma go in? No. The tuma could only go in from its opening from the top. Says the Gemara, Vim hukav tzamid pasel, and if it's completely sealed, achi poches ruboy, you need 51% of the kli to be gone. Not the size of a rimon. Otherwise, it protects whatever is inside of it from becoming tamei tumas oil. Omar Ravasi, Shamati kli cheres shiuroi k'moitzi rimon. Says Ravasi, I heard that the shear of a kli cheres is the size of a pomegranate, not like what Rava said, the size of an olive. The size of olive, Rava says the kli is gone. Perhaps you heard that if it has a seal, then a size of a pomegranate ruins it. That whatever is inside becomes tamei. Hey, ask the Gemara, we just said a second ago, it's not the size of a pomegranate. But Rabbi Udamar mukav tzamid pasal yipachas ruboy. The 51%. Where did you get this thing of a pomegranate? Like Kashi. If it's a very large kli, says Rashi, then 51% has to be destroyed. Otherwise, it can protect whatever's inside it from tumas oil. But if it's a small kli, then it's the size of, I don't know exactly what small and large is, but if it's a small kli, then it's not 51%, it's the size of a pomegranate. That size renders everything inside the kli tamei, because the tumah can come in from the side. Have a wonderful day. Shulam alois, mama kimusi kalino. Dinoi, shema b'koili, dinoi zachak hashuvois dikodach hanoi. Dinoi shmoyo, dinoi miyamoy. Kimcha slicho leman tivorei. Kivisa dinoi gibson amshil v'yichalti. Good, so you know, give me that.